Greetings, Tezos Nation. Welcome to another edition of TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons. Joining me today is Imran Haqeem, Deputy Head of Programs at TZAPAC. Imran is joining us today to bring us up to speed on TZAPAC's plans for 2026, including the latest on the next cohort of Fortify Labs supported projects, which is currently being compiled. Hi, Imran. Where are you right now and how's the weather?
Yeah, I'm in Kuala Lumpur. It's really nice and sunny here. And yeah, super excited to be here again. And great to talk to you as always.
Lucky you. It's very cold where I am. Since this is not your first appearance here on TezTalks Live, I'll dispense with our usual introduction to your background and your Tezos journey, and instead ask you to introduce TZAPAC a little bit. For starters, what is TZAPAC and what is its role here in the Tezos ecosystem?
Sure, yeah. So TZAPAC is, essentially the adoption entity for Tezos in the APAC region. We've been here for quite a while. Over the time, we've sort of evolved and focused on sort of different things. But I think generally now, what we really do at the end of the day is we nurture builders, we facilitate adoption, and the most important bit is we find high potential founders and we bridge them onto, either Tezos or Etherlink. And my specific mandate there is to run our dedicated startup studio, which is Fortify Labs. And yeah, really, I have the privilege of being able to work with these amazing founders, week on week. And as much as they learn from us, we also learn from them and we get amazing insights as well.
Okay. And how big is the TZAPAC team?
So I think we're pretty lean. I think we have about 15 people right now. We're sort of mainly in Singapore, but we do have colleagues in like Singapore and China, and me myself, I'm in Malaysia.
Okay. But Singapore is the home base?
Singapore is the home base, yeah. So whenever we run, our program offsites or whatever, we do it in Singapore.
Okay. Before we dive into Fortify Labs, can you talk a bit about the other types of projects and events and programs that TZAPAC was involved with in 2025?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, we definitely had a huge focus on Fortify Labs in 2025. But we also sort of was present at TestDev in Europe as well, where we actually helped Sogni, which is one of our startups, have a booth and sort of the idea was that we could use this sort of their AI capabilities to give people like this really cool photo booth prints that they could take home and it'll make them look like in sort of different versions of themselves, which is quite fun. But yeah, throughout the year, we had a couple events, all sort of in line with Fortify Labs, but one of which was during Token 2049, we actually had an open house. So we, not only invited like our old friends, but also, any interested builders that was looking at Fortify Labs, and we managed to speak to them, and we had quite a full house, and it was super happening, and we got to speak to a bunch of founders there. That was I think really interesting as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're entering a new year now, and a big refresh that comes along with all of that. What's the TZAPAC team up to now as 2026 dawns?
Yeah, so I mean, we're super focused on the 2026 cohort. So over the past couple of months, we opened applications, I think in November, if I'm not mistaken. So we've had about 3 months of people applying, and during that time, me and my team basically reviewing applications, interviewing startups, figuring out which ones we like and which ones we can potentially work with in 2026. So we're super busy with that. I think we've definitely had quite a lot of applicants compared to last year as well. So demand is generally sort of increasing, but more importantly, I think like the quality of applicants that we're getting is also increasing, right? I think like last year, we definitely saw more speculative stuff and more pie in the sky ideas. But this year, when I'm reviewing some of these applications, they have revenue, they have real users, they have really good like credibility and everything. So I mean, it's definitely a challenging thing, right? To sift through all of these startups and really pick the ones that we like. But yeah, really, we're hyper focused on that, especially with the program sort of slated to start in about 2 months from now.
Okay. Obviously, that's the main reason you're joining us today is to talk about Fortify Labs and its 2026 cohort of projects.
Right.
For those who might not be overly familiar just yet, what exactly is Fortify Labs?
Yeah, so Fortify Labs is essentially a startup studio. We are backed by the Tezos Foundation. And really, I think what makes us stand apart from accelerators and things like that is really at the end of the day our philosophy. And when we were creating Fortify Labs, we really reflected on the many years that we had working with founders. And time and time again, I saw this sort of a key thing that I saw was that, hey, there's these massive ecosystems where founders are going through, and the interactions that they have with them actually end up being very impersonal and very like low touch at the end of the day.
Mm,
So we knew that if we wanted to differentiate ourselves and build like a somewhat meaningful mode, we have to flip that script, right? We have to focus on being high trust and provide high touch support. So I think the core difference with like Fortify Labs and other accelerators is ultimately our philosophy and how we look at the startups. And you see this sort of reflected in the program as well. We are super selective. We only pick up to 7 teams a year. And we actually run the program much longer than accelerators. So
mm,
accelerators are about 12 weeks, which is about 3 months. We run it for about 8 months, more or less. And that the reason why we designed it that way is because um, we really want to be able to work closely with the teams, and we also know that like, hey, we're solving this like really tough issues like user acquisition and revenue growth and stuff like that. It's not really something that you could expect to resolve within like a month or two, right? It's something that you need consistent deliberate effort over a long span of time,
mm.
and naturally you build trust with the teams that way as well. And yeah, ultimately, the goal of Fortify Labs is that if you come and join us, by the time you leave, we want you to have meaningful revenue and growth. So, it's not just sort of fundraising and pitch decks, unless that's what you need. And we're super curated in our approach. So we don't just have sort of, you know, week on week, you show up at a workshop and then
Mm.
you do this. It's like we sit down and we understand, okay, what are you going through this week, and what are you expecting to go through next week, and then we actually work through those issues, and sort of be in the trenches, so to speak. Yeah.
Well, I mean, 8 months is a pretty significant amount of time that
Yeah.
you're investing in these projects. During that 8 month span, what's available for the teams and projects that are accepted into the 2026 cohort?
Yeah. So, well, in terms of like capital, we actually start off pretty small. So we start off with a 10K grant, and we also have a 10 to 15K user acquisition budget. And really, what the sort of user acquisition budget for is exactly what it sounds like. So anything related to getting users, whether that's
Mm,
marketing, whether it's legal, whatever, you can use that money for it. And the goal for this, isn't for this to last forever, but it's really um, to get you to a point where there's meaningful momentum and traction, right? Like
mm,
our philosophy revolves around something I like to call proof before promotion. So we spend that money and a bit of time to really get to the roots of growth. And once we get there, the floodgates can be opened up, right? So we can do investments of up to $1 million, or in the case that you launch a token or anything like that, we can also provide liquidity if that's needed. So the sky is sort of the limit, but we do emphasize on the proof for promotion bit. And in terms of like, other resources, we have like a dedicated marketing team, throughout that whole time that can help you out with, go to market or user acquisition or, social posting or whatever. We also have like a partnerships team that sort of, can help teams with like any business development, or if they're doing fundraising, for instance, they have like a whole Rolodex of VCs who are interested. And we also have a technical support team, right? And these are consist of some guys from Trilitech as well. So they are quite close with the core infrastructure team as well, and they're extremely competent and super helpful. And we also have some partners that we work with and people that we like we Google Cloud is one of the partners that we have. We also recently partnered with DAOmaker, and we have like a lot of great friends in Singapore who have like very specific expertise, whether it comes to legal or tokenomics, that we tend to bring in as well. Yeah.
Well,
And yeah, on top of that, like we do also have one last thing, which is like we have a personal mentor, like a dedicated personal mentor that helps like all of the teams essentially go through their woes week on week.
okay. Well, you mentioned the hands-on support and direct interaction as sort of a key differentiator for Fortify Labs as opposed to other sort of accelerators and startup studios. Can you expand a bit on what the hands-on support that Fortify Labs program offers is? Like, what does it look like in practice for the teams who
Sure.
participate?
Yeah. I think a lot of people say those kind of things, and it's hard to imagine it, right, at the end of the day. But one thing that I would say is that it's not cookie cutter, right? Like we don't have like a curriculum, so to
Mm,
speak, that we put people through. What we essentially do is bespoke problem solving, right? So if a team comes in and they're struggling with their go to market, or maybe they just launched a product and they didn't get much traction, what we do is we sit down with them, look at the data and figure out what went wrong, and subsequently plan a campaign to fix those issues. That looks like many meetings, sitting down, trying to understand the problem, documenting stuff, and also eventually executing on it, right?
mm.
Whether that means executing on an incentive campaign, or whether that means running Google ads, or whatever it is that the startups need. If they come into us and they say, hey, look, our tokenomics is broken, then we'd sit down and work on it with them, or if we need help, then we'll call external people to support us in that journey as well. So it's hard for me to I guess give one clear answer, because it is bespoke at the end of the day, and each startup, they all have their specific unique pain, right?
Of
So
course.
but I think generally speaking, we try and split it up into two sort of phases, right? Which is the build phase and the growth phase. So we simplify things in that way. Build phase is simple. The goal is to ship code on Etherlink. The growth phase is chasing metrics that lead to profitability, essentially. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it makes sense to approach it that way, given that every project is different and has its own needs and its own problems, right? So not doing it in a cookie cutter way makes sense. Um, I understand that Fortify Labs is still accepting applications as of today. When is the deadline for teams to bring their projects forward for consideration?
Well, officially it's 31st Jan, so we're probably gonna shut down our application page by then. But honestly, if you're a high quality founder and you have like amazing idea, and maybe you found this out like maybe on 31st January itself, reach out anyways, right? Like
Hmm.
if we find you compelling, and we're not gonna let like a date let you slip, basically. So yeah, we always make time for talent, basically.
Okay. And what types of projects is the Fortify Labs team looking for this cohort?
Yeah, so I think this year, if I just reflect on crypto in general, I think everything has become way more pragmatic, way more grounded. So what I'm seeing a lot, and generally what we're interested in is definitely payments. Payments is a big one. I think like anything that is sort of adjacent to payments and also super consumer focus, I think that's really interesting to us. I think RWAs are super interesting. As not just an ecosystem focus, but just as a useful societal need. So all those things are things that I'm generally seeing momentum in. But and generally I'm in the past, like gaming has been quite big, and it definitely hasn't lived up to its promises and stuff like that. So it's sort of wound down over time. Um, but I think we're not super against games either. One thing that I feel is true is that in these sort of down periods for verticals, that's when interesting stuff starts to show up. So I would say those four verticals are generally interesting to us. I would put sort of deep in RWAs as well.
Okay. And where can those who might be interested go to apply?
Yeah, so if you go to TZAPAC.com/Fortify Labs, you'll see all the information there, and a link that you can click as well. And in the case that the link is closed by the time you see it, um, reach out to any of us at TZAPAC, whether it's through DMs on Twitter or whatever, and just let us know of your situation, and we'll make it work.
Okay. And once somebody goes to that page and starts the process, what is the application process like?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, I'll go into it in a bit more detail, I guess, but really it starts with, well, once we see your application, like me and my team will essentially review it and figure out whether or not we like it and it's in line with some of the high level thesis that we have. And if we like it, then we'll arrange a first interview. And really, the first interview is more of us just getting to know you as a person, more of us just not just you but your team as well, and also just hear you articulate your idea and the economics around it and see whether it makes sense. That's really like a first read sort of situation, and like a vibe check. And then if we like you, we'll essentially do due diligence, right? So we write like a two-pager that outlines like, okay, this is what we like about them, and this is how we think we can collaborate. We'll also look into metrics and see whether everything is in line with what they mentioned. And eventually, if you get past that phase as well, then we'll arrange a second interview, and that's when we get into the more detail, right? Like, what does an integration actually look like? Okay, if you come to Fortify Labs, what are your goals? Can you meet our expectations, but also can we meet your expectations? Um, all those things are super important. Like trust and alignment is super important to us. So that's when we try and iron out all the creases and make sure that everyone knows what they're signing up for. Because ultimately we're going to be spending 8 months with them, right? And they're going to be spending 8 months with us. Um, and then once the second interview is done, we'll go back and discuss it, and if all's well, then essentially you'll be accepted in the cohort, which officially starts on March 9th.
Okay. And as far as plans for this year's cohort go, like I was going to ask about that, but you've already said the program runs for about 8 months. You've already said that as far as what's exactly involved for each team, it varies based on the individual projects and their individual needs, right?
Mhm.
Um, as far as applications that you've received so far, what can you tell us about the kinds of projects and teams that you're seeing apply this year?
Yeah, so I can't mention names, I guess, still being finalized, but like I mentioned before, I think payments is a big one. I've definitely seen a lot of interesting startups really double down on that route. I've seen a lot of people integrate like QR payments in Asia, and I'm not sure how that it is in that part of the world, but QR payments is like everywhere, right? Like you go to
Mm.
any shop and you can pay QR payments, and now we're getting to the point where you can hold crypto and pay QR payments with crypto. So, I think that's a pretty big, change in the landscape on its own. I also see, way more, RWAs popping up, and I think like pretty meaningful ones. Um, and also, I think the most interesting sort of class of applications to me is the ones that are really consumer facing and pragmatically abstract the blockchain in a way that is meaningful, right? Like ideally, when an application integrates the blockchain, like it needs to be such that the blockchain is actually value additive to the user, right? It actually
Hmm.
makes the user experience better. Like it would suck if I want to change money, and I have to like click on 15 different links just to make it happen, right? Like obviously that's a bad choice to integrate blockchain in that case. But the ones that do it like seamlessly in the background, I think those are super interesting.
Mm.
I've seen one where people can buy stuff online and they get cashback rewards, and they get cashback in crypto, or they get cashbacks in various whatever asset you want, right? I could get cashback in gold or like SpaceX stocks or whatever, if that was what the user wanted. So that's a case where actually blockchain makes the user experience better. I think another example of that is Sogni, right? Like a user can experience their creative suite, just like any AI provider out there. But then what they don't realize is that, hey, these GPU providers are getting paid in crypto at the end of the day.
Mm.
And all of those are facilitated seamlessly, and from the user perspective, it's like I just top up my credits like I usually do, whether I want to use credit card or I want to use crypto, and then I can do what I want. And on the back end, it's like being facilitated in a very crypto native way. So I love apps like that, and we're definitely going to see some of those in this cohort.
Beautiful. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the 2026 cohort will be the third in Fortify Labs history.
Yep, that's right.
What has the feedback been like from the teams and projects that have participated so far?
Yeah, so it's been really amazing. I mean, obviously we evolve every year, and we try and improve, but so far I think like our thesis has mainly been proven right, which is that if you focus on being personal and building trust and alignment and operating with genuinity, like it shows, it shows, and it's something that isn't that easy to replicate as well. So time and time again I get founders who come to me and say like, hey, like I can see how you guys operate, like it's so different from how other ecosystems operate. Like one even told me like, I spoke to this ecosystem last week, and I felt like all of them were scared they were going to get fired. And then, we're like sort of quite a happy folk here in TZAPAC. And, at the end of the day, like the vibe is so important, right? Like when you're doing something really difficult and you're going through, the tough times, you need that positive spirit to lift you up as well. So I think that, generally, the feedback has been great, and we're quite confident that what we're doing here is correct.
Awesome. This is all great stuff so far. I'm excited to learn more. But before we dive into the nitty gritty, are you ready for the world famous TezTalks lightning round?
Sure.
Great. Then it's lightning round time. Remember, there are no wrong answers. This is just for fun so our viewers can get to know you a little bit better. Are you ready?
Okay.
Are you a night owl or an early riser?
Night owl.
Exercise or naps?
Exercise.
Pizza or sushi?
Sushi.
What's your favorite country to visit for a vacation?
I like Thailand a lot.
Me too. If you were elected king of the world, what's the first thing you would do?
Um, Man, I can't answer this quickly, but I guess make food free.
Great idea. Name one thing you will never do again.
Um, the marathon.
Okay. What is the secret to happiness?
Um, I think if I knew that answer, Stu, I think being patient. Being patient is.
That's a good answer. Do you have any pets?
No, I don't, but I really want one.
Okay. What are you going to get?
A cat, for sure.
Good pick. And finally, what is your favorite thing to do on a rainy day?
Probably listen to music.
Great answer. Excellent answers. This concludes the TezTalks lightning round. Let's get back into it. Now that we've talked about TZAPAC and the 2026 Fortify Labs cohort, I'd like to zoom out a little bit and talk about the current state of blockchain and Tezos adoption in the Asia Pacific region more broadly. First off, how would you describe Asia Pacific's blockchain scene in 2026?
Yeah, so I think definitely, moving on from pure speculation, I think it's a big one. Like in the past, gaming and all those types of projects with tokens and stuff like that, that they were uh the prime examples of adoption in Asia or whatever. But at the end of the day, it was very speculation heavy. But now we're just seeing a lot of utility, right? Like one thing about Asia is that it has like a very strong sort of super app culture. Um, like one app, you can do everything, like payments, you can chat, you can shop. Like literally everyone just lives on one app. And so we're seeing that proliferate, I think, to many sort of crypto applications as well, and they're sort of gunning for that, right? Like we see sort of these neobank type applications where they integrate QR pays, and I've talked about that before, where they're everywhere in Asia. And we're seeing, like just really pragmatic builds of apps that uh, very much resemble that super app culture that I was talking about, and definitely moving away from those play to earn Ponzi sort of mechanics and stuff like that. So and I think that like the users here are actually quite open to testing sort of new super apps like this. So definitely more matured. Yeah.
Okay. And what about Tezos more specifically? Like, obviously, your team has been hard at work spreading the Tezos message across the APAC region for a number of years now. What's Tezos's presence like in the Asia Pacific blockchain community in 2026?
Yeah, so I think, I mean Tezos has always had like a very strong art presence in Asia. I remember in the super early days of when I just joined TZAPAC, that was one of the big focuses. We were constantly doing sort of art collaborations with museums and whatnot. And I had the privilege of like meeting all these artists, and it's a real and very strong community out here when it comes to arts. But now we are definitely expanding from that, right? Like uh like I mentioned before, like one of my favorite types of apps are ones where users like barely even notice that they're using blockchain. So you know I think that more people are using Tezos than they know. You know what I mean? Like some people
Yeah,
are
yeah.
just using Sognet, they don't even realize they're using Tezos. And so I think on one hand, like the culture of Tezos, especially in the art side, is definitely continuing to grow. But on the other hand, also, secretly we're sort of slipping into a bunch of consumers who don't even realize. So there's this whole new subset of users who are, I think, uh, you know, economically contributing to the ecosystem. And I think also this is probably how crypto would play out over time, right? Where at the start, when it was up and coming, like the concept of communities and cultures was so strong, because that's what was required to even get to that point where everyone was using it. But now, as it becomes more ubiquitous, like people will just stop even thinking of the concept of a blockchain.
Mm.
And so yeah, so it's definitely growing, and I think that it will grow, and people will use Tezos without even realizing they're using.
Well, that's should be the natural progression, right? You go from using it because it's crypto to using it just because it works and it's good,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And then the crypto, the blockchain aspect sort of drops off of people's radars, like you say, and you're just interacting without even being aware that you're interacting.
Mhm.
Now, I realize you just touched on this a bit, but like from a more zoomed out perspective, like how have things changed for blockchain and for Tezos in Asia Pacific over the years that TZAPAC has been in operation?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest change is definitely the inception of Fortify Labs and our focus on it as well. Um, like uh, because of this, we just have much more pragmatic builders and people that we're working with at TZAPAC. Like at the start, we were very focused on the art and doubling down on what's working. And then over time, we sort of um, you know through that process, met many founders building
Mm,
different things as well. We also ran a grants program at that time. So, all of those things actually ended up being extremely insightful to the evolution of TZAPAC, which is also running Fortify Labs. We've changed from, our mandate is essentially still the same, right? We want to build, we want to bring adoption to Tezos at the end of the day. The core difference is just that okay, now we have this new way of doing it where we really focused on top tier builders that we want to work with and really doubling down on them. So I think that our core remains the same, but we have evolved and changed the way that we do things. And I think ultimately um, you know we have more pragmatic builders, we have more quality builders. I think that the potential to sort of bring impact and affect many people's lives have definitely increased as well.
okay.
Yeah.
And in that vein, we've seen a lot of changes in the Tezos ecosystem since Etherlink's launch early last year. How has Etherlink changed things for your team and the APAC region?
Yeah, so I think that I mean, I love Etherlink. I love the EVM. I love Etherlink. It's huge change. EVM is the global standard, right? It's ubiquitous. Solidity. Now Solidity devs can deploy on Tezos like instantly, basically. Um, and you know, the barrier to entry to building on Etherlink is just so much lower now, right? Like, so
Mm,
there's so many teams that are building on, these many different EVM ecosystems, whether it's based on Ethereum or whatever. And now when we speak to them and we give them our value proposition, that limit of like, now we have to like, port over everything, and actually develop from scratch and refactor things or whatever. That's gone now. So it's much more seamless that way. Just in terms of like applicant demand, for instance, like we've seen it increase like quite significantly. I think there's also another probably unappreciated angle, which is that with people using like Cloud Code now and all the vibe coding tools, those tools work better on more popular uh, VMs basically. So it's much easier to vibe code with Solidity because it's such a common language, right? So we've seen that as well, where there are builders who come to us and they're basically one person that's building this company and they spin it up really quickly. So I think that if EVM wasn't around, we essentially leave the vibe coding um, uh, users like off the table. So I think that it's been an amazing strategic choice, and it's definitely um, been a huge unlock for us.
okay. And it sounds like Etherlink has driven an increase in volume of applications for Fortify Labs. Has it changed the types of projects that you've seen brought forward to participate?
Um, I guess I wouldn't say types exactly, but definitely generally if there's more applicants, there's just a higher breadth of types of projects that apply in the first place. Um, yeah, so I'm not sure if I would mainly attribute the sort of different ideas from a different language per se, but as more people apply, they all have different ideas. So maybe that's it.
Okay. And we can't talk about Fortify Labs without mentioning a participant that you brought up a few moments ago from the 2025 cohort that I've been following quite closely, which is Sogni. Have you and your team been keeping apprised of Sogni's progress?
Oh yeah, I mean, we still speak to Mao quite frequently to this day. I mean, I love Mao. I love working with him. I think he's an amazing person. And like whenever I speak to him, uh, he can't help but be obsessed about what he's building, Sogni. So, like whenever I speak to him, it's just like nonstop about like, okay, here's what we're doing now, and here's what's gonna happen next, and
Yeah.
sometimes I almost have to stop him, right? I'm like, okay, hold on, but they're growing really really well, I think. And the good news is that the integration is pretty much complete at this point. So all the paying GPUs on Etherlink and the whole system running on Etherlink is pretty much done. And what we're really aiming for this year is getting more GPUs on the Etherlink network this year. So we're going to be running a bunch of programs with them. And we even recently helped them with a staking season. So Sogni runs like these sort of staking seasons since they launched, and the most recent one was Etherlink exclusive. So I think we've seen pretty good sort of demand. Stakers who are on base like came to Etherlink and put it there instead, and I think the data has been super validating as well. So yeah, I mean, I'm super super happy for the progress that they've made. But honestly, I can't say that I was surprised. Like when we met Malvis and as we got to know him, like we just knew that there's an inevitability to these things, right? Like with somebody so passionate and so genuine about his product, um, he's just bound to grow. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, we're still keeping close to him, and we intend to work closely with him this year as well.
I think the interesting thing in speaking to him is you're correct. He fires all these things that this is going to happen, this is going to happen. But the thing that stands out is then those things happen, and it
Yeah,
happens
exactly.
quickly. He tells you it's going to happen, and then 2 weeks later you check and it's there, right? He
Yeah,
delivers
exactly.
on the things that he says he's going to do. What's it like for you and your team to see a Fortify Labs participant like Sogni go on to such a successful launch and get out into the wild and continue to grow like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. It's part of the reason why we do this. I think it's super meaningful to work with people like this as well, and especially if there's someone with super high ethical standards, super genuine, and then you just see them uh, reach the growth that they need. That's it's always super fulfilling to see, right? And I guess from me and my team, like being able to play a part in that and actually support them to get there. I think that alone is a privilege, right? Like as much as we helped Malvis, like Malvis helped us as well, right? Like
Mm.
he's always sharing with us his observations and his learnings and even his presence in the cohort and what he told the other teams, I think has been super super meaningful. So yeah, I mean it's always great to see um, someone we worked with do well. So, and yeah, I don't think that will ever get old.
Okay. And what's next for Imran Haqeem and the TZAPAC team? Aside from collecting applications for the next cohort and evaluating the applications for the next cohort, do you have any other exciting announcements or projects in the works?
Um, well, honestly, we're super laser focused on the 2026 cohort. There's a lot of work to do, and yeah. So I mean, we're gonna be at TestDev. So if you're there, maybe we can meet you. But yeah, if anybody is there, or if you're a team that wants to chat with us or whatever, we can definitely either do it at test dev or I'll be going to consensus as well. So consensus Hong Kong, I mean. And yeah, pretty much laser focused on the cohort in 2026. Yeah. And I guess we last year we had like an open house situation in token 2049. So I guess if there's anybody who wants to come meet us, come say hi, or just grab a couple of drinks, like come by our place at 249 this year.
Okay. And you're buying, of course, right?
No promises.
I don't know if I personally will be at TesDev, but I know that our team, the Tezos Commons team, will be there. Maybe not me. We could go on all day, but we're almost at the end here. To all our viewers, if you'd like to get in touch with us, our social media contacts can be found at tezoscommons.org/TezTalks. We'd love to hear from you. Imran, thanks so much for joining us today. It's always awesome to speak to the folks helping talented teams bring their amazing projects to the Tezos ecosystem. Is there anything else that you'd like to mention before we sign off here?
I mean, not really, except if you're a founder who's genuine about building and you have an amazing idea, either apply or come reach out to me. I'm super happy to hear you out and hopefully convince you to build on Etherlink.
And what's your handle for those who want to reach out to you directly?
Oh, it's the Rumbler is her
The Rambler is here.
with the U, Rumbler.
The Rumbler.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
To everyone out there in Tezos land, thanks for joining us on TezTalks Live. I'm Stu from the Tezos Commons, and our awesome guest has been Imran Haqeem. Now let's go support the 2026 Fortify Labs cohort.
Cheers, Stu. Thanks.